So you're saying with Hilton Honors, I can use points for a free night stay anywhere?
Anywhere.
What about fancy places like the Canopy in Paris?
Yeah, Hilton Honors, baby.
Or relaxing sanctuaries like the Conrad in Tulum?
Hilton Honors, baby.
Ooh, what about the 5-star Waldorf Astoria in the Maldives?
Are you gonna do this for all 7,000 hotels and resorts?
When you want points that can take you anywhere, it matters where you stay. Hilton for the stay.
Click the banner to join Hilton Honors for free today.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
To get the Crime Writers on After Show right now, go to patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, she dreamed of inventing a machine that would change medicine. Was she more concerned about the health of her company than her patients? We'll talk about the Hulu television adaptation of the Elizabeth Holmes podcast, The Dropout. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of the These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the best-selling Dead on Deadline, Laura Bricker. Hello, Laura.
Hello, Rebecca.
And finally, filling in for the vacationing Toby Ball is our special guest, one of my favorite people, the host of the HBO Docs Club podcast, Ronald Young Jr. Hello, Ronald.
Hello, hello. It is good to be here.
I am so excited to have you on the show. I'm like, if I could add another Crime Writers panelist to the show, you would probably be the person I would add. I am not kidding.
You just have to write some crime.
Unfortunately, I don't.
Toby's never written any crime.
Not true crime.
No. Not even any fiction. There's no crimes in his books. They're just
noir.
Yeah,
but that's,
Yeah, there's some crime in
so
there.
we're going to
Is he a criminal?
Yeah.
Well, I mean...
He's been on jury duty twice.
Yeah. Like 4 times or something like that. The log theft. What was it? Lumber theft?
The timber taking trial.
Timber taking, yes. Man.
So we have a ton to do in the show, and we're going to have plenty of time to hear Ronald's takes on everything. But Kevin, before we get to that, what is coming up on the next podcast episode that we are going to be dropping in this feed?
Yeah, well, next Monday, we're going to be talking about the Peacock show, Joe versus Carol.
Okay. That's very exciting.
Yes.
All right. But before we get to our review of The Dropout, we have one of the biggest true crime podcast and true crime updates we've had in a very long time.
Should I do the thing?
Kevin, I think you need to introduce it like you often do.
All right, ready?
Yes.
True crime update.
Wow. Anyone else want to try that so I can add some echo to you as well? No?
No, don't.
I am intimidated. No, thank you.
Okay, so I know that by the time this show drops, this news will be everywhere. But I just want to check in. Ronald, have you heard this big news about Adnan Syed as of this taping?
It's funny because I literally just read it on the Crime Writers on Twitter.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this won't be super new to you.
Yeah.
So here's what's going on. Rabia Chaudhry, who, of course, is Adnan Syed's good friend who's been championing for him for more than 2 decades and who brought the Adnan Syed case to Sarah Koenig for the podcast Serial, of course, that turned into the podcast Serial. She announced today that there are some huge developments in his case, and I'm going to just summarize them quickly. One is that she had hired a lawyer for him a while back, Erica Suter, who is a well-known appellate attorney in Baltimore who was already interested in Adnan's case, but during working on the case also had been appointed the executive director of the UB Innocence Project.
good position to be in.
So Adnan Syed has now been being represented by the Innocence Project now for a while, which was something we did not know, right?
Yeah, truly, we didn't know that.
We did not know that. Second, the other thing that has happened that is huge is that a petition has been filed to test DNA in Hae-Min Lee's murder case, DNA from her clothing, DNA evidence from hairs found around her body, and DNA from other evidence in her case. I'm assuming evidence taken.
Stuff that was actually never tested previously.
Never tested.
Right,
I'm
okay.
assuming evidence taken during, an autopsy or rape kit or something. We don't know. Never, ever tested for DNA. The huge thing here is that the state has joined this petition, which means that Adnan Syed, in his fight for exoneration, is no longer fighting against the state of Maryland. They believe his case deserves a second look. They believe he might be innocent. They believe the DNA should be tested, and it's appropriate that he might have an actual claim of innocence.
Amazing.
Laura Bricker, thoughts?
About time. Like, this is fucking awesome. I mean, seriously, like, I can't believe that they didn't test it before, but also the fact that it is going to be tested now, that just, to me, gives me this, I don't want to say hope, but it is hope that what are they going to find on there? Science is so far along compared to when Hae-Min Lee was killed. And I think that this is something that could be like concrete information that could produce new information that could show more clearly what actually happened in this case.
Yeah, they could find the killer.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, this is amazing. Good job, Rabia, and everybody else that has been advocating for him. But now it's like Christmas. I can't wait to find out what happens.
What about you, Ronald? What were your thoughts when you read this news on the Crime Writers on Twitter account?
Well, I'm like, and even listening to you talk about it, I feel very puzzled because I'm wondering after he had the post-trial conviction relief that was like overturned and then he lost whatever would happen with that. I thought it was over. So with this new petition coming, it makes me wonder, what are his chances of actually getting out? Because this is a guy who keeps getting hope after hope after hope, which is good for him. But I'm just very curious to see. I'm very interested to see how this plays out. And another thing is, me and Adnan Syed are around the same age.
Yeah.
And I think that's when they talk about him coming out of high school in that 99, 2000, 2001 era. I graduated in 2002. So everything they're talking about on that podcast, when I listen to it, I'm like, I can't imagine what it would be like if in 2002, I was snatched into prison and then released in 2023, 2024, anything like that after Obama, Trump, how many wars? Now Russia's invading Ukraine. The pandemic. All of the iPhones. iPods.
He was in prison for 9/11.
Yeah, 9/11. Yes, you're right.
He went to prison. You could walk into an airport and just get on the plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a crucial time. So I'm like, and to come out and be 40, 41, 42. It's just, that'll mess with your head a little bit. So I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see how this plays out for his sake.
So Kevin, there are two factors here.
Yeah.
One is that Maryland passed that juvenile justice relief law that basically made it so that juveniles who were convicted of life in prison could have their cases re-looked at for resentencing, right?
Right.
And Adnan Syed mistakenly was cast as an 18-year-old when he was tried, but he was actually 17 when he was arrested. Mm-hmm. So that is why, they were able to get his case looked at again. But there's something else going on here.
What's that?
So the state has now changed their mind. Marilyn Mosby, by the way, very publicly was pro Adnan Syed's conviction not being overturned previously, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now she has signed into this petition very strongly saying, by the way, if his DNA is not found, that is exculpatory evidence.
That's a interesting way to say that.
It's a strong statement.
Yeah.
It's saying if his DNA is not found, he's probably innocent, is what she's saying. You know what else has been going on with Marilyn Mosby, though?
What?
Marilyn Mosby is facing perjury charges and lots of charges for false mortgage applications. She has been facing her own legal issues. and she could use a PR win right now.
She could, yeah.
So this also was going on in the background because I'm thinking, like, why would she suddenly, like, she's the state's attorney, like, why would she suddenly, like, reverse course here after fighting this? And I'm like, oh, there's a lot going on here in the background that's been really helpful for Adnan Syed in this case, the law plus that. So what are your thoughts, Kevin?
Well, he's got a couple of good avenues that he could go to, even though that his original appeals have kind of ended. There might be some other appeals. The resentencing certainly looked like that was something that would apply to him, because he was sentenced to life as a juvenile. U.S. Supreme Court said that can't happen. So he certainly would have been a candidate to be resentenced. And I think that work was probably underway. This is better, though. I mean, I think that you would much rather walk out of prison exonerated,
yes,
as opposed to saying, well, they just changed my sentence and now it's essentially time served, because you walk out still as a convicted felon,
yep,
right? So to be able to sort of walk out and say, to be, the most famous exoneree in the country, I think would be great.
It would be great. All right. Well, I guess we're all going to be watching this very closely, and we'll have more updates to come. It's pretty astonishing, I think, what happened today as we're taping this, and I can't wait to kind of see how it plays out. All right. Well, I think we should get to our first review because we've got a lot to talk about there, too. What do you think, Kevin? Should we do that?
Let's do that.
All right. Let's go ahead and drop that first clip.
The world works in certain ways until a new great idea comes along and changes everything. What if you could test your blood in your own home? And what if it wasn't a whole vial, but just a drop?
High achiever Elizabeth Holmes went to college with a vague dream to invent something that would change the face of medicine. Her concept evolved into a system that would diagnose illness with a single drop of blood. She dropped out of school to start a company, even though the experts told her the science behind her idea wouldn't work.
If you want this, you have to dedicate yourself. What are you willing to do to get it?
I can't give them one reason to doubt me.
It's not even close to working yet.
What are we going to show at the demo?
We're going to tell them that we don't have a working prototype. Right?
Encouraged by her mentor and lover, Sunny Balwani, she created Theranos. While her researchers struggled to make the technology work, Holmes excelled at raising money by overplaying the efficacy of her unproved invention.
This is the kind of tech we want our name on.
Why are they not actively seeking FDA approval?
Our technology is extremely valuable.
I don't think you're acting like a company that's financially solvent.
You don't think this is suspicious?
You don't understand the business.
And you don't understand the science!
The 8-episode Hulu drama The Dropout, based on the ABC News podcast of the same name, stars Amanda Seyfried. She plays Elizabeth Holmes as an awkward yet driven idealist, so blinded by her vision she'd do anything, even faking results, lying to investors, and mistreating her workers. Spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about plot points from the first 4 episodes of The Dropout. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes to hear our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. So Ronald, one of the big stories here is Amanda Seyfried's portrayal of Elizabeth Holmes, because she wasn't the first person cast in this role. And I'm curious to know what you think of her casting and what you think of how she is doing playing Elizabeth Holmes in this role.
So, of course, in preparation for this and the Joe and Carol episode, I watched a lot of Joe and Carol. So I saw that Kate McKinnon plays Carol Baskin. And in watching this episode, of course, I always Wikipedia and do my research. And I see that actually the first person chosen for the role of Elizabeth Holmes was Kate McKinnon.
Wow.
And
yeah.
I was shocked. I was like, okay, I mean, I guess they're doing an eyes thing. There's obviously an eyes connection going on here. But Amanda Seyfried blows this role out of the water. This is for me, this is a career-making role for her. After this, we should see her in like critically acclaimed things after this. If you could get an Oscar for a television show, she should be the first one to at least be nominated, because there's stuff
you
she's
can.
doing
It's called
here.
an Emmy.
Are you saying that Mamma Mia was not an Oscar-worthy film? Is that what you're saying?
I think her best role before this was Mean Girls, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. Her best role before this is Mean Girls. No, I totally agree.
Yeah, the range that she's showing here is it's incredible. Like there's times when I'm watching this, and I'm like, I think she really is Elizabeth Holmes, because I'm like, and I haven't seen someone play a role like this. I want to say since like Jamie Foxx played Ray, and you close your eyes, and you're like, is this Ray Charles? Like what's happening here? So I can't say enough about her performance in the role.
Yeah, but Kevin, it doesn't feel like an impression though, right? And that's what's so great about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it can become caricature when you've got someone that has like this distinctive voice, and actually, the voice is an important part of her character and her legend, let's say.
Why don't we sign some NDAs? We'll have some snacks.
She doesn't make it like a caricature. She does capture that, wide-eyed, naive defiance in the face of facts. Like, someone will tell her, yeah, you can't put in a patch a whole bunch of, the medicines to do this and the thing to do that. And, it's like science. And, she just kind of, with her eyes in her head shaking, like, no, I can do this. And it's kind of like spectrum adjacent behavior. Like, it could come off as a bad impression, but it doesn't. And I think that, like when some people do impressions, like if the 10 people that do the best Donald Trump impressions, 8 of them sound the same, but then there are a couple that sort of, lock into different aspects of that.
Yes.
And I feel like she has locked into the better aspects of what that person in real life, how that person could be played.
So, Laura, we had to follow, and Amanda Seyfried had to play Elizabeth Holmes in high school, Elizabeth Holmes as a young college student, and then Elizabeth Holmes, the executive that convinced all these old white men to join her board and grifted Walgreens executives into signing this deal. So she had to play this whole range of people, through this transformation. And we actually see her do the transformation in episode 3 in that like one super iconic scene. What do you think of her range here? Her ability to like play super young, and then her ability to play. I mean, Elizabeth, Holmes is not old, but she certainly tries to be a little bit more mature as she transforms into the executive that she's wanting to be.
Yeah, and I've seen some criticism out there of people who felt like, oh my gosh, she's too old to be playing this teenage role. But I really felt like she really captured that sort of awkward teenage girl part of this character in the way that she's dancing to. By the way, who sings that song she was dancing to? I'm in a hurry to get things done. Does anyone know?
No.
I know. It's Sawyer Brown. And they sang it because it was a Mac McAnally song. This is my parrot head knowledge here coming into play.
Oh, okay.
But no, so I think, we have these scenes where she's like got her little headphones on and she's dancing to music, and she's in her, teenage bedroom looking at the poster of Steve Jobs. And then we also see like an earlier scene, wasn't her, but again, with this character where we really sort of like the setup for this sort of awkward, not really feeling comfortable socially character when she's like running, and she's got that weird running style, and her brother's like, what is she?
What was
like
that?
What is wrong with her? Is she like a clubfoot? I don't know what's going on. But, like,
that's got to be a true fact. It's got to be true, right?
So, but I feel like
poor parents.
I did buy into her in that teenage role. And, and I think, then you also, to me, I then bought into the next step, which was she's off in, was it Beijing?
Yeah,
yes.
Where she meets Sunny. This evolution, and, even when she's first starting the company and she's wearing clothes that are just not something that you think somebody should be wearing, that's the head of a company.
You don't like what I'm wearing?
You should just dress more like a CEO.
When I was with Mark Zuckerberg at the photo shoot for Inc., he was wearing soccer sandals, flip-flops.
Yes, but you are a woman. If you wore soccer sandals to work, everyone would think that you're having a mental breakdown.
Yeah, I just don't want to waste my time picking out what I'm going to wear.
And then, there's that scene that made me, I wanted to reach through the screen and fix her darn tank top. That scene where like she, she throws coffee on herself in her new Prius. And then like the strap keeps coming out and she just like, fuck it. And she just like starts snipping it off. And I'm like, whoa.
Weren't you wondering, like, your bra cups are still down there, though? Like,
I did wonder that. I was a little curious as to what actually was going on, but I think for me, like, one of the things about this particular series is we have consumed like a lot of Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos media, but somehow this one to me still felt like fresh and entertaining, and it was easy to watch. And I'm like, I think it's because we did have more. Those first 3 episodes were really focused on that younger version of her. So for me, I was like buying in to her mission in a way, because it was like the origin story that we knew, but we saw it in a different way in this series, I think.
There's something to be said about the biopics generally. And I have a stance on this and like just kind of generally again, but that's what I was thinking. There's something to be said about the fact that I do feel like I've consumed a lot of Elizabeth Holmes, just content. I listened to the Dropout, that the podcast that this show is based on. I've read the articles. I've read, all of the things. I've done a deep dive into this, but for some reason, when it shows up on screen, I'm not tired of it. Like when you get to episode 4 and they're siloed from department to department and all that, and you're seeing people get disappeared as they talk about on the podcast and all of that. Yeah. When you see all this happening, there's no part of me that's like, I already know this story. And it kind of reminds me of The Social Network, where like, I know I consumed, I was on Facebook, like during the time this was all happening. I read all the stuff. I knew about, the lawsuits and all that stuff going on, and still watching it on screen. For some reason, they did something. There was something about the way the story is told and the way the characters are portrayed that the story feels really fresh and not like something that I'm like, oh, well, I already know this. Unlike another show, which I'm sure we'll discuss later.
Do you ever meet someone who seems kind of off? Whether it's a creepy neighbor or random phone number that keeps calling you, Truthfinder has you covered. You can search for people by name, address, phone number, email, and more. Truthfinder can be especially helpful for running confidential background checks on anyone you're planning to meet from online dating apps. Go to truthfinder.com/podcasts for a special offer. That's truthfinder.com/podcasts to access your special offer today.
So you're saying with Hilton Honors, I can use points for a free night stay anywhere?
Anywhere.
What about fancy places like the Canopy in Paris?
Yeah, Hilton Honors, baby.
Or relaxing sanctuaries like the Conrad in Tulum?
Hilton Honors, baby.
Ooh, what about the 5-star Waldorf Astoria in the Maldives?
Are you gonna do this for all 7,000 hotels and resorts?
When you want points that can take you anywhere, it matters where you stay. Hilton for the stay.
Click the banner to join Hilton Honors for free today.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
Guys, let's take a break and talk some business.
All right.
So right now on Patreon, on the Crime Writers on After show, we're going to talk a little more with our guest, Big Ron, and find out Ronald Young Jr.'s life story.
Yes. I can't wait to unpeel those onion layers.
Yeah, and find out a little more about his time on Peacock TV.
Oh, my God. What?
Oh.
Yeah, well, we're going to save it, right, Ron?
We got to wait. Oh, my God.
Well, say it whatever you want.
I can't stand the suspense.
We're going to go a little more into that true crime update also about Adnan Syed.
Yes, can't wait to talk about that some more.
Also on Patreon, we have the latest edition of Leave It to Bricker, where Lara goes, almost undercovers.
Yeah, as much as she can with that loud mouth of hers.
Yes, to investigate the new business in her tiny New England town, which I won't say the name, but it is a 24-hour massage parlor with blackout curtains.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And one that will not admit women because they're always busy then.
Yes.
So
I think Laura is actually single-handedly busting a sex trafficking ring in her town.
I am, and I'm signing up my friend Mary, who is a guest on that episode of Leave It to Bricker. We are thinking of getting a couples massage together so that we can go in and find out what's happening before we liberate the women.
I know what's happening.
Laura is scooping the FBI 100% in this episode of Leave It to Bricker, right?
You're screwing up our investigation.
That's what it is. Like, seriously, some guys in like jackets with mismatched FBI fonts are going to knock on Laura's door and be like, stop. You're messing up our operation.
5-year-long investigation.
It's not that hard. Today, I learned one of the names.
Yes, that's not her real name. Just FYI.
Well, apparently she goes by and she's very popular.
All right. So, Kevin, who actually are our Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Sandy Richter and Anna Davis. Bless you.
Guys, thank you for being our Patreon patron saints. And Kevin, if people want all of this amazing content on our Patreon, how do they get that?
They go to patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media.
And thus ends
the business section.
The business section. I'm going to fade that music out right now. So, Ronald, you mentioned The Social Network and how this reminds you of The Social Network. And I'm wondering, is it because of the framing of the legal case around it? Because that is exactly what The Social Network did. Or is it because it is this inside look at a thing being built and unraveling? Because it is a very different story than the Facebook story, right?
Yeah, there's something. So when you talk about how Jesse Eisenberg plays Mark Zuckerberg, I think that is the same as what Amanda Seyfried is doing for Elizabeth Holmes, because Amanda Seyfried is playing her as this outcast who is, like you said, like Kevin was saying, like there was some behavior that felt like it felt like it might be on the spectrum, but we're not certain. No one confirms and no one says yes or no. But there's definitely behavior that makes her feel or seem like an outcast. And she plays into that very well. And because she's capitalizing on that, I think we as viewers are kind of invested in the journey, especially because they start with the stuff that we know. They start with the fact that she's going to court. Yeah. She's going to get arrested for this. So they're like, hey, here's a deposition, all that stuff going on. And they're like, also, let's tell you the rest of the story about how we got all the way here. And I think there's something about being a viewer and watching that and saying, I do know how we got here. And I have like a general knowledge, but refresh my memory. And then when they start pointing out detail after detail after detail, and the dramatizations are now like pulling into focus the things that were blurry in the back of our minds about this case, I think that makes it like super engaging. It makes you really want to watch it. I think that's what they're doing very well here.
Well, like these kinds of adaptations, what you get from this that you don't get from the Dropout podcast or Bad Blood, I think that was the name of the HBO documentary that we saw, is that writers can regulate the amount of emotion and what kind of emotion to inject into these characters. And, I guess I'd say that I hadn't seen Elizabeth Holmes as a sympathetic person before this. Yeah. I hadn't seen a world in which her motives were not as nefarious as they were just unrealistically ambitious and getting herself caught in this money trap. At least now we're halfway through it. She probably breaks bad, as they say.
Oh, I think she has where we are. Yeah.
I think so, yeah. She's broken bad. You can't congregate in the lobby without security telling you to move it along. I don't know. That's got to be Sonny's doing, right? That's not Elizabeth's style. But in any event, it's what you can do with this. And it's done well here. It's done poorly in Inventing Anna, is that you can kind of, amplify the parts of that person's story that will resonate the best, as opposed to when you're just doing journalism, you can't do that shit.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm really fascinated by, and the thing that, I'm curious about, like the truth of, and I'm sure it came from somewhere, is the relationship with her and her mother, played by the fantastic Elizabeth Marvel, one of my favorite actresses.
Yes.
Where the mother is all about the feelings box, right? Like literally, she's like, put your feelings in the box and put the box under the bed, and we shall never discuss it again.
Let's quite literally throw it in the dumpster.
Including when Elizabeth is raped in college. And, it's like, at that point, she's like, I believe you. And Elizabeth's like, I love you, Mom. And she's like, okay, then let's say straighten the scarf and move on. So there's that.
Not talk personal.
We see that Elizabeth has something going on with her emotionally, functionally, something. We see that she can't run. I mean, I don't know what that has to do with anything. But there's certainly, you know, some awkwardness just sort of through her life there and her interactions with other people. But yeah, Kevin, you're right. You kind of come to understand how somebody perhaps could be convinced that this was possible, and maybe not coming at it just from a perspective of like, it's very interesting, by the way, that her dad worked for Enron.
Right.
Because, like, you know, Ken Lay just fucking bilked people, right?
Yeah.
And Elizabeth Holmes, like, you're wondering, you know, I think it's setting up the viewer to think, like, is she just Ken Lay, like, setting out to bilk people? I don't think we think she set out that way. She set out, she wanted to be an entrepreneur. She wanted to be Steve Jobs. Yeah. So I feel that. I don't feel like she, like, started out to be Ken Lay, and that's new for me. And speaking of toxic dynamics, Laura, Elizabeth.
Wait, what
Sunny.
A lead into that.
I mean,
sorry, Laura.
Because seriously, Laura.
Speaking of evil women.
Next.
I mean, but speaking, and we were talking about Elizabeth and her mother, but then she has this other relationship with Sunny, which is fucking weird, right?
Yeah, it's fucking weird. So, I mean, I was thinking as I was like looking at this relationship that evolves from their meeting in Beijing, where we see her, you know, extremely young, very at that point looking high school, very innocent. They're like riding bikes around and eating food together, and you know, having this very odd to me relationship. As it evolved, I just felt like it was this sort of like toxic symbiotic dynamic that like they're both tied to each other for their own sort of reasons. But it's like, it just gets more dysfunctional over the years. You know, they're both outsiders. You know, he is tech entrepreneur, millionaire. He's twice her age. We've got her. She's a woman trying to break into like this man's world and old white men in Silicon Valley. And they like feed off of each other and they're in it together. But it's kind of fucking creepy, especially when like she comes back and like, you know, they're on the phone all the time. And then she even acknowledges it. She's like, why are you talking to me? I'm like, and that time where she's like, never talk to me again. And then, of course, when the rubber hits the road and she needs help, she calls him. I don't know if I would have traded in his like fancy fast car for the Prius, but I mean, power to her. Just going to say there, I might have continued to drive the fast car. But I mean, I think that relationship and that dysfunction and that ongoing enabling of each other continues for years, to the point that when she gets to the point where she's really having to keep up this facade with Theranos, he's like that person that is right there to prop her up because of this long, complicated, just totally messed up relationship that they have.
Ronald, I have a question for you, because we don't actually know what happened behind closed doors between Elizabeth and Sunny, right? And we don't actually know what happened with her in college with her sexual assault, right? So what do you think of the fictionalization of those relationships? Because I do find myself sometimes like, I mean, I love it. I'm like, show me all of it. Like, I really want to know the Elizabeth and Sunny situation. And I know that there's documentation from people who knew them and were close to them. And, you know, the way that it played out, where he was like an older mentor to her and then it became sexual, like, is super interesting. But we also don't know. And it does feel weird to me that these are real people. And especially with a real woman, seeing her like sexual intimate relationships and the sexual violence like that was, you know, that happened to her being portrayed in screen. It is weird, right? On some level.
Yeah. And I think there's something that, like, when you think about imagining the kind of the connective tissue when it comes to stories, especially true stories, there has to be some emotional truths that kind of ring through. And I think this series does a good job of that. Like, I find myself watching some biopic content and I'll be wondering, did this really happen? Did this really happen? Like, there's a scene early where she's dancing in her bedroom and like basically worshiping a poster of Steve Jobs. and I'm like, come on, man, you know that didn't happen, man. and I was ready to.
It was like her Rihanna poster, right?
Yeah, I'm like, what is this? I'm like, I was ready to be like, okay, you guys guys are doing the most. But I found that like the relationship between the two of them is, well, one thing that they say in the podcast is they say, hey, they were always together. They were inseparable, where she was, he was, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think all the series is doing is imagining what the connective tissue looks like when we couldn't see them, because I don't know if they talked to Elizabeth Holmes or Sonny about their relationship and what they were saying in these private rooms. But again, when it comes to something like the sexual assault, that's when it gave me a little bit of pause, because what they're saying is, and we don't know all the details of what happened to her. And I feel like at one point when they're describing what's happening in front of me, it made me feel like a little bit icky, because I said, is this something that is motivating her to do better at Theranos? Are they using that as a plot point or some sort of motivating factor for why she was the way she was at Theranos? Because again, if you see her running on the track looking weird, what I take for that as a viewer is she's a person that doesn't give up. She's going to keep going, even if she's not suited to be a runner. Like that's what I'm seeing here. So then you ask, well, what is this sexual assault supposed to convey except another detail in the story?
Right.
So it kind of threw me off a little bit there, but I still think that the rest of it, they're bringing all the imaginative connective tissue together well.
I mean, I'm assuming, and I keep in mind, I will admit I have not Googled it to look it up, and I probably should have. I'm assuming there was an allegation of sexual assault. I can't imagine they would have included it if there wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that plays into somehow her feeling comfortable dropping out of college in addition to the entrepreneurial stuff. And I'm assuming that it plays into, I mean, maybe what the assumption is. I mean, and I don't think this is necessarily a fair assumption to make, but it is a fair, like, armchair, like, therapist thing that, like, maybe it informs her weird relationship with men going forward. That being said, who's to say that wouldn't have happened anyway? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know. So, Kevin, how do you feel about the casting of Naveen Andrews as Sonny?
Oh, yeah. He was like, hey, that's Syed from Lost. Yeah. Hey. Like, not an obvious.
Where you been?
Choice. Yeah.
Where has he been? By the way, he's probably been on some CBS shows that I don't watch. I'm just going to totally say it because every time I say I haven't seen someone in forever, it turns out they're like on some CSI franchise thing that I do not watch or something like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, when we see him in like episode 1 and the way they have him made up, I was like, oh man, life's been rough. And but now as we get to like episode 4 and he's like been drinking the green juice and
haircut,
getting it in one drop at a time, that he's looking.
Thanks.
Yes. His hair's licked back. He's looking good again. So, but I do love
sleeping in sleeping bags on his office floor. No one's getting it in. Just saying.
He also has like all those Japanese swords. And,
they're not swords. They're what are they?
Katanas.
Yeah. So the character itself is kind of odd, but I think that he does a good job of bringing him to life, and it kind of makes you wonder. Like the thing that I took away from the podcast was, he was this businessman, but people really didn't know that they were getting it on with each other. They just thought they were together, like he was her man Friday. But I think it kind of plays with different ways about how that relationship might have been. First of all, the age difference, it kind of, the armchair psychologist says, when you get into a relationship with somebody that wide of an age gap, it's because you are insecure with your peers romantically. So, I don't know. That's just, I'm not saying that's
she doesn't relate
the
to
blanket
her peers.
statement.
That's for sure.
She doesn't relate to her peers.
At all.
They are an odd match, but is it that she is hanging on to him because she needs advice and she needs a mentor very badly? He seems to also be very kind of possessive and controlling of her in that kind of way. So, like, there's a lot of ways of explaining why they were attached at the hip at the office like that because of all these other things going on. Anyway, I think it's a great supporting performance.
But that's like her target demographic, right? Like older men. Like we see that over and over
seems
again.
That way.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the deal, Laura? Like all these older men are like, I mean, keep in mind, like, I mean, there's a few things going on here. One is the tech bubble, like sort of the rise of tech. And we see it with Dr. J from Walgreens.
Dr. J is
Down
an
ruck.
idiot.
Yeah.
That was Laura's note.
But such a well-played idiot.
I know.
Laura sent me a note. Dr. J from Walgreens, not the NBA, is an idiot. That was Laura's note. I'm like, thanks, Laura. It's very elucidating. But yeah, I mean, that's her target market. Every older white guy or every older guy she meets is just like, okay. Like,
got some money.
Yeah. I mean, but there's the rise of the tech, and it's also because she's a woman doing it, and there seems to be something special, right?
Well, yeah, I think because she's like this young, idealistic woman, it's like, to me, as I was watching this, particularly with the guy with the cowboy hat, like, I felt like it's like there's something about her being almost like this daughter figure to some of these guys, and then she learns how to like play into their egos, but
saves her job by doing that.
You're talking about Don Lucas?
Don
Lucas. The guy who doesn't meet with anybody?
Yeah. But right, Laura, she turns on the waterworks before she's about to get canned, and that saves her hide.
I was not expecting that to save her hide.
Yeah, but my favorite one was the guy with that Larry Ellison, the investor guy that's out on the boat, and she's going, get the fucking money, get the fucking money.
DTFM. Get the fucking money. Get the fucking money. Do you get the fucking money?
And the precursor to that is when she throws off the life vest. I'm like, oh, she's gonna get crazy now. She's taking off the life vest. Like, stand back.
You think she runs funny? What do you see her swim?
He's going in a circle.
Yeah. But I think that was so interesting because the people that you do see try to shut her down are the female professor at Stanford who's like, yeah, just be a college student. Like, don't. And she's just like, fuck you. I'm not going to do what you say. And then the woman who comes over from Apple who's like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing it. So,
by the way, the women are all right. They're all right.
The women are all right. The women are all right is what I'm saying. And these men are just like,
they know better. That's the thing. You can see they all know better, and then they go.
Everyone gave up her 50,000 Apple shares to go.
Oh, geez.
They come to that crazy finale where the three are singing that ridiculous freaking blood song.
Oh my god,
that was so cringeworthy.
Do you guys remember
what
Ronald?
I like about blood,
Ronald, you weren't here. But when we unveiled our new Crime Writers on theme song, Kevin spontaneously made up lyrics to it that were terrible.
I love
that was better than the What I Like About Blood karaoke scene that was on.
I mean, that guy, I don't know the actor's name, but he crushed it because I felt a body cringe as he started like moving his head and like singing the song. I was like, this is wild. I did want to mention though, we mentioned Phyllis Fletcher, who was the lady that Elizabeth Holmes talked to first about trying to get her work like sponsored or whatever. And I remember I was sitting there watching. I was like, this is here. Because this is her supervillain turn. This is when Elizabeth Holmes becomes the supervillain that we expected because of this conversation. Because I'm sitting there and y'all are both right. The women in this movie are right in what they're saying to Elizabeth Holmes, but Phyllis Fletcher was kind of a jerk about it.
Yes.
Like, she was really a jerk about it. I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, you ain't got to say it like that. She's just like, I'm annoyed. I don't want to talk to you. Your idea is stupid. You're a sophomore. And it was both like being condescending, but also belittling her.
Yes.
And
she's also supposed to be a teacher, right? Like, do some fucking nurturing, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever meet someone who seems kind of off? Whether it's a creepy neighbor or random phone number that keeps calling you, Truthfinder has you covered. You can search for people by name, address, phone number, email, and more. Truthfinder can be especially helpful for running confidential background checks on anyone you're planning to meet from online dating apps. Go to truthfinder.com/podcasts for a special offer. That's truthfinder.com/podcasts to access your special offer today.
So you're saying with Hilton Honors, I can use points for a free night stay anywhere?
Anywhere.
What about fancy places like the Canopy in Paris?
Yeah, Hilton Honors, baby.
Or relaxing sanctuaries like the Conrad in Tulum?
Hilton Honors, baby.
Ooh, what about the 5-star Waldorf Astoria in the Maldives?
Are you gonna do this for all 7,000 hotels and resorts?
When you want points that can take you anywhere, it matters where you stay. Hilton for the stay.
Click the banner to join Hilton Honors for free today.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out The Dropout? Laura Bricker, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for The Dropout?
I'm going with thumbs up. I thought this was really interesting. I said earlier during the review, we've watched and listened to a lot about Elizabeth Holmes, but this was fresh. It was entertaining. It was easy to watch. We get a lot more of the origin story. By the way, I love the soundtrack and the music choices throughout this. They were fantastic.
What I like about blood. They spent a lot of money on music for this thing.
I was like dancing away. And I was like, anytime somebody's in their car listening to music, I'm like, yeah, I can get behind this. But I think what this did to me is this humanized Elizabeth Holmes in a different way, where almost like I talked about when we did the Anna Delvey show, I did find myself impressed by her ambition in this male-dominated world. I don't agree with all the things that she did, especially when she, took advantage of these people, cancer patients, in her trial. But there was something when you see this origin story where you do find yourself sympathizing with her in a way that I maybe did not in the past. So, it's really interesting. I can't wait to watch the next episode, and I would recommend it.
Ronald Young Jr., thumbs up or thumbs down for The Dropout?
Give a thumbs up. And I want to echo a couple things Laura said. I think there's one thing that gets me is that I feel like most people in Silicon Valley are scammers. But if you are a man, it's like you have more of a runway to scam. So where you have more time to make your idea legitimate. And so maybe Elizabeth Holmes is subject to more scrutiny, not just because she was bad at business. I mean, there's obvious things she did wrong, but maybe there were more questions being asked of her because she was a woman, which feels like, I'm like, if they're scammers, they're all scammers. Just go after them. That being said, the series is, it's fantastic. They're doing a good job of telling the story. I think it's, again, I'm thinking a lot about The Social Network when I watch this, which I'll probably now watch again because of this. But watching this, it's well presented. It's well cast. Everyone that shows up on screen, I'm enjoying. We didn't even really talk about Stephen Fry as Ian Gibbons, which was, he's doing a fantastic job. There was a time in there I was like, well, give this guy an Oscar for television as well. Like, all of these things, like all of these guys coming together. Even talking about James Hiroyuki Lau. I'm sorry, I know I messed that up. Please forgive me, as Edmund Koo, and Utkarsh Ambudkar as Rakesh. Like, so many great castings in here. I think if you're looking for something to watch, this is it right now. Like, it's good. There's no Euphoria. Insecure is done. Like, come on over, watch this. And Abbott Elementary, but also watch this.
Oh, Abbott Elementary, yes. But don't forget Bill Irwin as Channing Robertson, a.k.a.
Bill
Mr.
Irwin,
Noodle.
yes. Oh, yes.
Dude, Sam Waterston is George Schultz.
Yes.
He shows up, again, over and over. These great castings
show up. It is the Hey, It's That Guy. Oh, my God.
Yes.
It's the Prestige TV mashup that we didn't know we wanted, but actually
even the dad is from Mr. Robot.
It's incredible. He was also in. He was the first president from.
Not Scandal, but
House of
Cards.
Yeah,
House of Cards. Yes.
Yes.
That guy. Every time he shows up, he has this mini gravitas that comes with him. I don't understand why. All right, go ahead.
About to be impeached gravitas.
Yeah.
Kevin Flynn, thumbs up or thumbs down for The Dropout?
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up. This is just the latest in the series of the bloodless true crime, true con wave of stuff that we've seen. Plus, we're at the point now where a lot of the original true crime podcast IP is getting turned around into movies and series and things like that. So we're going to be doing a lot more of comparing titles with their source material. This does it very well. I love the casting. Amanda Seyfried is just fantastic, and she will definitely get an Emmy nomination, or as Ron calls it, the Oscars for television. the Golden Globe.
Ooh, we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about those, no?
Those are dead.
Those are dead to us now. Besides, you can't even watch it on TV if you wanted to.
You wouldn't want to anyway.
So, as you shouldn't be able to.
As you shouldn't be able to. But anyway, I think this is a really great adaptation, and I think the thing that it adds that the journalism ones cannot is that it adds the emotion that really makes it a more compelling human story as well as a con. So thumbs up.
So, yeah, I'm a huge thumbs up, too. Listen, without Amanda Seyfried and a performance like the one she's giving, this could have been real bad, right? But I'm going to agree with everything all of you said, especially Ron's comparison to The Social Network, which is, for me, The Social Network is one of, 5 movies that I give a perfect 10 to. That movie is amazing. It's an incredible film. And this captures a lot of that vibe around that time in the early 2000s. And something else you said, Ron, really struck me is that everyone in Silicon Valley is a scammer, that men get more time to scam. But you know what also men get is they get the chance to fail again and again and again. They get a chance to fail up, fail sideways. They start something, it fails. They get the money to start something else.
Correct.
Elizabeth Holmes knew she had one chance, right? She knew it. Everyone knew it. So she had to get everyone on her board. I'm going to stack my board with everyone. So, yeah, I mean, her idea was stupid. It wasn't going to work. But she also knew she had only one shot. So it kind of makes sense. And I really, really think this series captures that in a way that a poorly made one wouldn't. So anyway, I find it highly feminist in addition to being really well made and really fun to watch. So big thumbs up for me for The Dropout. Wasn't expecting to like it as much as I do, but I love it. And now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the crime of
the week.
As if the state of the world couldn't get any worse, in Japan, a 1,000-year-old evil spirit may have been released after the volcanic rock it's been housed in split in two.
It's very bad. It's very bad.
Known as the Killing Stone, the historical landmark is located outside of Tokyo near sulfurous hot springs. Legend has it that the Sessho Seki contains the dark spirit of a woman who plotted to kill the emperor in the 12th century. When attacked, she turns into an evil fox with 9 tails. Locals discovered to their horror last month the Killing Stone had split in half. Some noticed the cracks have appeared in the rock for many years, and rainwater may have caused the fracture. Still, others believe the dark spirit has arisen and been unleashed into a chaotic world, which we say kind of tracks. So, panel, now that she's free, what is this 1,000-year-old 9-tailed fox demon gonna do? Laura Bricker, what do you think?
Oh, God. I feel like there's so many possibilities, but I mean, look at the world right now. I think she's everywhere, honestly. I mean, maybe she's coming to Exeter to help me bust open the bleep spot.
Ronald Young Jr., what do you think a 1,000-year-old 9-tailed fox demon is going to do in today's world?
Whatever she's going to do, she's going to do it walking because these gas prices are high.
What do you think, Kevin Flynn?
She's going to be on the Joe Rogan show. She's going to talk about how she's been doing her own research.
Yes. All right. Well, that's probably going to do it for us. But before we go, Kevin Flynn, do we have a cat of the week this week?
No, we have a dog of the week, and we're saluting Buddy, Laura's dog, Buddy. She doesn't know we've taken over her segment, but
sorry, Laura.
Buddy had been with us for a long time. Buddy was an original cast member here
OG
at Crime
cast
Writers
member
On.
of Crime Writers On.
And he lived a good long life.
I will say Laura Bricker was very reluctant to embrace Buddy.
Everybody knows Laura as the cat lady, but she had a big place in her heart for her dog, Buddy, too.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. So I'll tell you, Buddy was a golden retriever, and he was 11. It's very common with golden retrievers that they get cancer. I found out not even a week ago that he had cancer, and I was like, well, we've got a little time, and then it just progressed very quickly. So we were very sad to see Buddy go. The cats tormented Buddy a lot, and he was always very tolerant of them. Pippin, the Wonder Terror kitten, attacked his tail on a quite regular basis. And Buddy never snapped at him. He was just such a gentle, kind dog. So,
well, maybe Buddy will team up with a 1,000-year-old nine-tailed fox demon.
Yeah.
And cause havoc around the world. That would be amazing.
Talk about a buddy comedy.
All right,
Yeah.
Laura Bricker, if folks want to send their condolences to you about poor Buddy, or maybe send suggestions for pets to be future cats or dogs of the week to cheer you up, how can they find you on Twitter?
They can find me at Laura Bricker.
And Ronald Young Jr., if folks want to find you online, what is your handle all over the internet? It's my favorite.
You can find me at It's Big Ron. That's at OHITSBIGRON.
Kevin Flynn, if folks want to find you, how can they do that?
I'm at Big Kevin. No, I'm not. It's just Kevin P.
You
Flynn.
should grab the It's Big Kevin, man.
I should see if that's available. Yeah.
No, you're just stealing it from Ron.
Yeah.
And if you want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you can find me at Reb Lavoie. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Crime Writers On, and I encourage you to join our community in our crazy, amazing official Crime Writers On Facebook discussion group. Support the show at patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media. You get the Crime Writers On After Show, Married with Podcast, Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcasts. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons. Our line editor is the very handsome Olivia Burdett. The executive producer of this program is Kevin P. Flynn. This show was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, otherwise known as Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement where we wear black turtlenecks and practice making our voices very deep. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
If I look really fast, it looks like it says, "Oh shit, Big Ron." If I look really fast,
Yeah.
at your I'm like, because I just.
I've heard this complaint before.
Okay.
Partners in Crime Media.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.